Happy Thanksgiving and welcome into another edition of the Hops and Spirits Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Green. Hope you're having a fun time with your family this week, maybe enjoying a few beers, a few bourbons, maybe some other spirits, some cocktails. I hope you're having a good time. We got a fun episode for you this week. It's a little more on the spirits side. We'll be talking to Brandon Hunt, the founder of Bourbon Charity, here shortly. We'll also be talking with Chris Walters of Nose Your Bourbon, the nose on your face bourbon. He does some really cool stuff to help you just learn about the different smells and nuances in bourbon. So it's a fun episode. Remember, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Hop Spirits, all one word. That's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Hop Spirit. Follow us there to keep up with our giveaways. Just some of our other shenanigans, a lot of fun. And there you can keep track with all of the things we're giving away for our Things We Love holiday giveaway. We told you last week about the Pies and Pints part. And this week at the end of the episode, I'll give you a clue on part 2 of the 3-part giveaway, so stay tuned for that. But joining us now here on the Hops and Spirits Podcast is Brandon Hunt, founder of Bourbon Charity. Brandon, thanks for taking some time.
Thanks for having me. Now,
for those that don't know what Bourbon Charity is, what is it?
Well, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we basically bridge the gap between charity with bourbon and use bourbon as a fundraising tool to raise money for various nonprofits and other causes.
And, this started kind of pretty close to you, the reason it got started. Can you explain how this all came about?
Yeah, a few years back, my dad had prostate cancer, and it was supposed to be a routine surgery to remove his prostate, and it ended up turning into a month-long nightmare. And kind of as he was going through this, I had a childhood friend. Her daughter had multiple tumors growing on her spine. It just kind of hit me at once that I really wanted to do something and give back and try to raise awareness for what these two important people in my life were going through. And so I love bourbon, and I was playing ping pong one day, and I said, hey, you know what? I wonder if other people love bourbon and would donate at a chance to these various causes at a chance to maybe win some of my bourbon collection. And so that's kind of how it got started. It was Father's Day of 2019, and ended up in that fundraiser in less than 90 days, raised a little over $75,000, I believe. So it kind of showed that there was a lot of people like me out there that love charity and love bourbon and love combining the two of them.
And did you really donate your entire collection to get this off the ground?
Yeah, it was at the time. Of course, that's been a year and a half, so the collection has grown. But yeah, at the time I had the Pappy Van Winkles and the B-Tac and some Weller and stuff like that. And I've had those a couple times at bars and at friends' house, and it was great. But what a greater purpose could it serve? Raising money for charity. So yeah, that's kind of how it got going.
And you live in Arizona now, but you grew up in Kentuckiana. I'm guessing that played a part in your love for bourbon and that kind of a thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Growing up, it's this all the distilleries are less than 45 minutes away. My brother would come home on for Thanksgiving and Christmas and have some different bourbons with them when I was in college. So it kind of got me into it. And then when I moved out to Arizona, it kind of just as we've seen the bourbon trend continue. It was just kind of ingrained in me from the get-go.
I mean, did you always love bourbon? Where you grew, because of how close you grew up, or is that something that built over time?
Always loved bourbon. It was always, except for that little spell in college where it was more Coors Lights. And, but yeah, really after college, it was kind of the drink of choice. Having an old fashioned with my dad, just something, that you kind of did when you got together.
And, and back to kind of the Bourbon Charity, you guys put on several events in 2019. I think you've raised more than $500,000 already, which is amazing in such a short amount of time. How does it work? Like, I mean, how do people become part of it, and how does it all come together?
Yeah, you can find us at bourboncharity.org or on social media at Bourbon Charity on Instagram or Facebook. But yeah, you just follow us, get to know us. We do, like you mentioned, a lot of different events. This upcoming Saturday, we have Bourbon Bingo, which for like an hour and a half, you kind of get to play some bingo, at a chance to win some bottles. So we do a lot of fun and creative different events. We have various sweepstakes going on. You can sign up on our email list and become in the know when we're doing barrel picks and stuff like that. So I guess look us up on social media and sign up to our email list is kind of the best way to get started and introduced to the charity.
And it's one of those two where you can kind of purchase tickets, but you can also just share it, and you also you can get opportunities that way to win, right?
Correct. Yeah, there's that viral kind of element to it. We're living in kind of an online world these days, and so yeah, social sharing. You can get free entries by helping promote it. So what a charity really looks for a lot is not only monetary donations, but really awareness. Just sharing us, our story and kind of what we're doing with other bourbon lovers, and really just kind of getting us out there to a wider base is a lot of what people listening can do to help out the charity.
And how do you, or how are you all able to source your bourbon? Because I mean, you guys have some amazing picks for those big bourbon aficionados, those looking for some
Mhm.
tough to get products. How are you able to come across those?
We have a very good relationship with a couple different retailers. One that's primarily our main ones out of New York. They're able to give us somewhat of a charity discount on those bottles, but it's more that we're able to source it from them and have the ability to get it in the first place. That is kind of important for the charity. In the future, we do have plans to try to work closer with the Buffalo Traces of the world to try to get some of those highly allocated bottles closer to MSRP, so we don't have to go through the retail channels that we have to.
But how? I mean, to me, that's it's still impressive that you're able to work with these folks. I mean, I know it's a great cause, but I still have to feel like it's a not always the easiest thing to go and find bottles that will bring a lot of people in.
Yeah, it's just those relationships that we've built. For us as a charity, we look at it as we understand it's business. That we understand they have to make a margin, but we also try to look at it and see how much money can we raise with these bottles? Can we take $10,000 worth of bourbon and turn it into 150,000 dollars worth of donations?
And what are, for those that are like, well, I still don't know if this is something, that they'll have something I like as far as bottles. What kind of bourbons have you given away over time?
Oh man, all the highly allocate, all the stuff that you see that has exorbitant prices on the internet. The Pappy Van Winkle line, the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, your Wellers, your Elmer T. Lees, your Blantons, your top end OFCs, your really kind of hard to find, really expensive bourbons is kind of the bourbons that you can win in our sweepstakes and participating in our bingo events.
And with all of that, when people are working toward trying to win those bottles, they're also helping out charities. What are some of the charities that y'all have been able to help, and how do you pick those? And is it ones that are just kind of near and dear to you, or is there more of a bigger process than that?
Well, it started out with the ones that were kind of near and dear to me, but it's kind of expanded into more of I guess even a global reach. I mean, when the Australian bushfires happened in early 2019, we said, "Wow, Australia's on fire. Like we have a platform. We can do something to raise money." So, in less than like 24 hours, we had a fundraiser going for Wildlife Victoria as well as the New South Wales Fire Department down there. So we ended up raising $30,000. That was kind of in the moment kind of fundraiser, but really. we try to hit all different aspects. Military, we're supporting Fisher House, we're supporting food banks with Dare to Care, we're doing international water rights with Charity Water. Um, we're doing, cancer type charities. We've done American Cancer Society, we've done Prostate Cancer Foundation. So we're just trying to pick a lot of different areas and give people within the organization that have donated the ability to vote on which charities to support. So we'll have that coming up at the end of 2020, where actually people that have donated to the charity will get to cast their vote for which charities that we'll support in 2021 for our main fundraising event. So it's kind of a lot of different angles that we're going at it as far as what charities we support and how we're doing it.
Well, that's pretty awesome that you're also letting those that participate to pick. Why did you kind of do that or decide to do that, especially for the next
Well,
one in
because
2021?
the charity's outgrown kind of, initially what the purpose was of me, trying to raise money for my dad and my friend's daughter and what she was going through, to now all these people that are donating, they should have more of a voice in that process. So we're just trying to allow growth within, this charity, for it to actually be a charity of the industry and of the people that support it.
And did you ever expect that, in like a year and a half, you'd have 5,000 plus supporters coming together? A hashtag, drink for a change that trends. I mean, did you ever expect anything like this when it first got started?
No, not really. Honestly, I had no idea really what to expect. I knew that bourbon had been used for charitable purposes in the past, but there was no real person or entity that really said, "Okay, let's cross the T's and dot the I's and make this an official, nonprofit." And I think just taking that to the next step to do it kind of the right way and more of the long way is going to pay dividends, and it's showing that it's paying dividends now that we can raise so much money for a lot of different causes.
And what does that say, I guess, about the bourbon community, the craft drink community, and just how willing they are to give back and to help out?
Just so generous. I think people need kind of an easy button to give. I think giving's kind of changing, especially here in 2020. But like, I think people, when they saw Australia, for example, on fire, like they want to help, they want to give, but like going to research, okay, where do I give? I've never done business with this charity before. I have to enter my credit card. So I think people want also kind of an easy button and something familiar that they're used to. So I think we're just kind of giving them a little bit more of that user experience, and I guess more of that vote in the future of what to support. So yeah, I think it's all great things. I think where we're going is pretty remarkable in the first year and a half here.
And when people think about charities, charities can happen pretty quickly. A lot of fundraising efforts, but the way that this works, it's all across the world, nation. How difficult was it to get it set up? Because I feel like one reason people might not have crossed all those T's and dotted all those I's was just this probably took a little bit of effort.
Yeah, it took a lot of effort. It's been about 2 years of my life and 30 hours a week for the past 2 years, and a lot of money too. I was fortunate enough to do well in real estate at a young age, and I think the capital requirements. I've started. I'm an entrepreneur, just ingrained in my blood, and I've started a lot of businesses, and I can tell you, starting a nonprofit is super. It's like 10 times the amount of expenses than it would be a regular business. The regulatory, the filings, the being able to solicit business in multiple states and having to register there. I mean, there's just a lot that goes into it that I think that's kind of was the obstacle or the hill for a lot of people to start something like this.
But you've had a lot of people that have helped out, whether it's those merchants or even some of the distilleries themselves. How big of a role have they played? I mean, obviously we talked about it a little bit earlier with being able to help you get some bottles, things like that. But how big of a role have all your partners played in this?
Partners and early supporters have been crucial to the growth and the organization. Now we have 30 ambassadors on social media that help promote our fundraisers. We have distilleries now that are reaching out to us and sponsoring fundraising events that we're doing, or looking to do barrel picks with us, where they're going to donate a portion of that barrel to a charitable cause using our platform. So just kind of the growth of people joining the journey is kind of a snowball effect, and it's wonderful to see the whole industry coming together to do this.
And your ultimate goal is to ensure that 100% of public donations from your fundraisers go directly, to the charities and the causes that y'all support. You're working your way there, and one of the ways you're able to do that is the Bourbon Hood. How does that work, and how important are they to that goal?
Yeah, Bourbon Hood's the solution. It's how we're going to get to become a 100% public donation charity, which is pretty lofty goal. I don't. There's very few charities that operate this model. I kind of, when I wanted to start the charity, I read a lot of books. One of the books was from Scott Harrison, who started Charity Water, and this is kind of how they had this 100% model set up, where they would have people that would donate towards the operation costs of running the charity. And then when they did big fundraisers or asked the public for donations, that all those funds would go 100% to a water project. And so we've mirrored that model. We started off as an 80% to public donations going to public charities. We're up to 85% now. With Bourbon Hood, I think we started it in March or late March of 2020, and we're up to 400 members that are contributing monthly, anywhere from $10 to $100 a month. They get entries into all of our sweepstakes. They get some Bourbon Hood swag, and they also are donating to the bigger cause of helping us become a 100% public donation charity, which which will be a huge accomplishment.
I mean, that just sounds amazing, and it seems like you're getting there, and you're doing everything so fast. I mean, have you had a second to just sit back and take a look at what all you've been able to accomplish so far?
I think probably when we get to 100% is kind of when that step back phase, for me in my mind mentally, like it's not done until the charity is 100% running itself, and 100% raising money for the charities it supports. It's the platform to raise all this money. So maybe there will be some reflection at that point, but right now it's full pedal on the gas to get there.
Well, like I said, it seems like you're doing a great job at it. I mean, considering this was founded in 2019, you've got more than 5,000 supporters, that are part of the Bourbon Charity family. You got the Bourbon Hood family as well, that's helping you get to the 100% mark of being able to donate all the funds you raise. You've raised more than 500,000 to date. Um, what's I guess my next question for y'all is, when's your next event, and then how can people be part of it?
Sure. Our next event is the Bourbon Giving Fundraiser. It ends on Giving Tuesday, which is December 1st. You can enter into that sweepstakes if you go to bourboncharity.org and click on that sweepstakes. We also have another sweepstakes ending on December the 16th. So you can check that out while you're on our site as well. It has a lot of Willet, lots of Pappy, lots of hard to find allocated bourbon in these sweepstakes. So be sure to check it out.
Well, and as we we're getting ready to celebrate Thanksgiving, and you got the holidays come up. I mean, to me, those are perfect gifts to give someone if you can win, right?
Perfect. I look at it for me as a dad, and look, I've got everything I need. I got my my health and my family. Simple, like, let's share a bourbon drink and donate to charity and have potential to win something. Sounds like a win-win to me.
And then, looking forward to 2021, what's next for y'all, and what do you guys have planned for next year? I'm sure you're hoping that the world gets back to a little more normal pace, but what's up next in 2021 for y'all?
Just more raising money, more sweepstakes. We'll have something on Valentine's Day. We will have the Bourbon Derby coming back, hopefully in May this year, first Saturday in May. We'll have an even bigger ultimate bourbon fundraiser on Father's Day. We'll continue to do the bourbon bingo nights and continue to have a lot of fun and raise a lot of money for charity. So that's what's on the agenda for 2021.
Well, Brandon, you, like I said, you guys are doing some amazing things. The craft spirits, craft beer communities that I've been fortunate enough to talk about, on this podcast. There's some amazing people out there, and you really are, that hashtag drink for a change. You guys are making a change and doing some really great things.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's amazing. There's so many wonderful supporters, and there's so many people that make this charity special. And it's all 5,000 of them that are doing this. So I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully people listening will come follow our journey and join us in drinking for a change.
And where can they get all the info again?
Bourboncharity.org.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for hopping on and taking a little bit of time to talk about Bourbon Charity.
All right, Jonathan, I appreciate it.
I really appreciate Brandon Hunt from Bourbon Charity hopping on. I got to play Bourbon Bingo. My wife and I did recently for Bourbon Charity. It was a lot of fun. We didn't win, but we will definitely be back, and it's a great way to give back and to have some fun and maybe even win some cool bottles too. Remember to check out one of our dear partners, Ober-Gatlinburg Ski Area and Amusement Park. Come discover all the wonderful things that Ober-Gatlinburg Ski Area and Amusement Park has to offer. Experience breathtaking views as you ride the aerial tramway from downtown Gatlinburg to the mountaintop to play, shop, and dine. Summer tubing, wildlife encounter, coaster, ice bumper cars, alpine slide, chairlift, year-round ice skating, and much more equals fun for everyone. During the winter months, enjoy snow tubing, skiing, or snowboarding, or play in the Cubby Snow Zone with your little ones. Fun festivals round out the calendar with Mayfest in the spring and Oktoberfest each fall. Mountaintop of fun and excitement high above Gatlinburg is waiting for you at Ober-Gatlinburg Ski Area and Amusement Park. And now as we continue our Thanksgiving fun, talking some holiday stuff. This is a perfect gift, by the way. Joining us here on the Hops and Spirits podcast is Chris Walters, creator of Nose Your Bourbon, and it's not that he knows it all; it's your nose on your face. Nose Your Bourbon. Chris, thanks for joining.
Absolutely, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to kind of dig into this a little deeper.
Now, for those that might not have ever heard of Nose Your Bourbon, it's a training kit so you can kind of learn to get the nuances, the notes of bourbon. Is that correct?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's basically, the concept of if you can train your nose to, identify certain scents, whether it's, chocolate or clove or brown sugar, those different notes, if you can really spend time with those, actually nosing that specific thing, then when you go to nose your bourbon, those elements are going to jump out of the glass more to you. So it's really just a training tool.
And how did you come up with something like this? I feel like, to me, after I heard it, I'm like, well, that's genius. But how did it kind of come about? I mean, it seems like such a cool idea.
Yeah, thanks so much. It really started as something that I built for myself. I was getting into bourbon pretty heavily and starting a nice little collection, and I was really enjoying tasting through things, but I didn't have the vocabulary to put kind of words to what I was nosing and tasting like other people that I was reading, these detailed, dark brown sugar and dried cherries and, vanilla and all these things. I'm like, man, that sounds amazing. I wish I got those notes, and I'm not there yet. So it's either a lack of training or people are just making this stuff up. So let's figure this out. So I reached out to a buddy of mine, and he's got an amazing palate, and he said, really just start with the spice cabinet. Go and grab your nutmeg, your black pepper, cinnamon, all these things, and start there, and then you can kind of expand out from there. So the idea came from you've probably seen the bourbon tasting wheel, where you've got kind of 5 different wedges, where you've got kind of your sweet notes, you've got your spice notes, you've got kind of oak and wood notes, you've got your fruit notes, and then you've got your grain notes, and it gets more specific from there. So that's really the idea, is just to kind of ratchet your vocabulary up one level. Like, to say that it's sweet or that spicy is a great starting point, but let's see if we can get a little bit more specific. What type of sweet is it? Is it honey sweet? Is it black pepper spice versus like a cayenne pepper spice? So yeah, that's kind of where it started.
Well, it's a really cool thing. And did you just love bourbon, or what? Kind of spurred on something like this? I mean, obviously, I'm guessing you had to enjoy it, but have you always loved it, or was it an acquired taste?
It was definitely acquired. It's funny. I went to a Total Wine when I was first kind of getting into just spirits neat to start off with, because I was like, I don't want 10 different ingredients and have to always have fresh things to make cocktails. It just was too much fuss for me. I wanted something I could just have a bottle of, and I could pour neat and enjoy it. And I think the first recommendation I got was either an Irish or a Scotch, and it just was not my bag. And it took me forever to finish that bottle. And I was like, man, is this what whiskey's about? And then I kind of left that alone, came back to bourbon, which I didn't know the differences at the time, but I picked up a bottle of Bullet bourbon, and I was like, I totally fell for the packaging. I was like, this is an awesome bottle. And when I had that first taste, I was like, this is amazing. And I didn't have the words for it yet, but it was those brown sugar, caramel, those rich, syrupy notes that I just absolutely love now. And so Bullet bourbon was totally my, gateway bourbon. And now I've got this growing collection, and, the rest is history.
I was gonna say, I'm guessing you are now a lover of all sorts of bourbons and whiskeys, right?
I am. I don't discriminate too much. I've got some rye, but my collection is probably 3/4 bourbon still. But yeah, kind of dabbling in some of the finished things. That's typically not the way that I lean, but I'm open to trying almost anything, just to see what the finishing casks can do to it.
And for those, because one of the reasons I wanted you on here was because the Nose Your Bourbon kit is really cool. Because for someone like myself that is now kind of jumping full, into the deep end, so to speak, before I just dabbled a little bit. It tastes good, in a nice mixed drink. But now I'm starting to pick up some of the notes and things like that. How
Sure.
does this really help kind of train you?
Yeah. So great question. What I recommend is, so the kit, and I know this is a podcast, so we don't have a video of it in front of us, but there is it's laid out in 3 rows of 6. So there's 18 different screw top containers, and they're color coded to kind of identify which part of that bourbon tasting wheel they come from. Is this a sweet something I'm smelling? Is it a spice note? Is it a grain? So on and so forth. So if you take your glass of bourbon to your nose and you smell it and you go, "Gosh, that's spicy," then maybe start with the spice notes. And so you might pull up, allspice, and smell allspice, and then go to the glass. Nope, it's not allspice. Then you open up and smell clove, and you go, "Oh yeah, there's a little bit of clove there." And then you come back to cinnamon, you smell that, and you go to the glass and look for cinnamon. Oh my gosh, yes, that's the spice. I'm putting I'm getting more specific, and I can say that's a cinnamon spice on there. So I might jot that note down. Then go on to the next thing. What else do I get? Oh, there's a little bit of fruit in there. So, oh wow, that's red fruits. Okay, great. It's cherry. Oh my gosh. And so you kind of dig in, you get one level deeper each time you go, and kind of get, honed in on that scent.
And to me, that's for a lot of folks, different ways bourbons are done. From the charring of the barrels to just the mash bills themselves, come
Hmm.
up with such unique combinations that when you're starting out, you really do need something to be able to compare it to. And I just love that about the kit.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a super fun project to work on. It's really helped me, when I started out, and I don't claim to have this amazing palate, and like it's really rare that I can pour a glass and sit down and in 5 minutes rattle off, 25 tasting notes. Like it's not going to happen. But over time, I found that I am, and even it's things that are not in the kit, right? Like there's 18 things in here, but there's 1,000 things you might have in the kitchen that are different spice notes, different food ingredients. So just spending more time cooking and baking, and being around those things can really help you. Like I've nosed a bourbon before that I was like, oh my gosh, that's birthday cake, and like there's not a birthday cake scent in my nosing kit, but you get some of those, like, yeah, it's cake batter, it's icing, it's all these things kind of playing together, and so it's really fun. I mean, I always encourage people, don't take this stuff too seriously. Like there are no wrong tasting notes and nosing notes. If you smell something, if it reminds you of a time when you were cooking, chocolate chip cookies with your grandmother, then that's your tasting note. That's your tasting experience, right? So
No, I love that. And it's so true. Each person's journey is so different when it comes to bourbon, whiskeys, and just spirits in general. So I really like how you phrase that. Now, you mentioned that you kind of have the 18 in the bourbon kit, but you also have kind of the nice little bundle. What all comes in that bundle, and why does that kind of combo happen?
yeah, so the nosing kit was my one and only product through my Etsy store for a long time, and it was a very lonely, landing page. You'd get there, and there's one product for sale. It's like, yay! So I knew that I needed to expand that and kind of bring more to the table. So I found an Etsy seller that handcrafts these beautiful leather tasting journals, and they've got the word bourbon stamped on the outside of them. They've got a little leather loop to hold a pen. And so I was like, well, I've got to find, a whiskey barrel pen maker. And so I found that, and so now this kit, so you get the nosing kit, you get the leather journal, you get the whiskey barrel pen, you get 2 Glencairns, and you get a PDF download of a tasting sheet. So if you're going to sit down and taste through 3 or 4, really up to 6 different bourbons, it can be really hard to say, well, oh gosh, 3 was a little bit better than 6. And especially when you're going blind, right? So the way that I've designed the sheet is that you kind of you rate it on some different aspects. So it's not just nose, taste, and finish. You can kind of dig in a little bit deeper and say like, how unique was this, and that's something that you don't always talk about, like, oh, this is a pretty average, or like, it's how complex is it? It's very one note. Okay, so it's going to score low on that complexity scale, but at the end you come up with like a 0 through 5 rating on all these different sections. You just literally tally it up and add it down, and then whichever bourbon had the highest point total was your favorite bourbon that particular night. So but yeah, that's kind of the whole bundle. I mean, it's literally like just add bourbon, and you've got a bourbon tasting just waiting to happen on that.
I love that, and it's something that to me is a great gift for the holidays for someone that's wanting to get into bourbon, or even someone that's got a little bit of experience. Because like you said, it never hurts to have something to compare to. I also love the Glencairn glasses. For those that might not understand why that's used, you want to explain kind of their purpose for nosing and kind of the whole bourbon thing, because that's a very important glass, I would say, in the bourbon world.
Definitely, it's my favorite glass, and I've tried a lot of them, different designs, and different ones have their own. Like, oh, this one's really good for nosing, but then it's kind of awkward to drink out of. Or this one's great to drink out of, but it's so wide open at the top that a lot of those, aromas and scents are escaping. So in your typical rocks glass that you might have like an old fashioned in, it can be more difficult to get a nose off of that bourbon, especially if it's a lower proof. If you're drinking like a 90 proof Buffalo Trace, it's going to be really difficult in that wide open glass like that to concentrate any of the scents that are going on there. So what the Glencairn does really well is it concentrates by design. It gets narrower at the top, and so you can literally put your nose into the glass. You can kind of rotate it around. One nostril is typically a little bit stronger than the other, so you might find like, oh, I'm getting more fruit notes over here. This one's just picking up more of that scent, whatever that might be. And it because of the way that it kind of bulbs out at the bottom, you can give it a nice swirl, get a little bit of air in there to open that up, especially if it's a higher proof, like 120 plus proof.
And then I'm going to put you on the spot here because you mentioned you enjoy bourbons. Bullet was kind of your gateway bourbon.
Yeah.
What's your favorite one that you just kind of like to pick up and enjoy most nights?
Oh man, it's so tough.
You
So
can give me a couple if you need to. That's okay.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with anything Heaven Hill. I mean, like Elijah Craig's store picks are fantastic. Four Roses barrel strength picks are local Total Wine just dropped one today that's fantastic. So I mean, for the bang for your buck, it's really hard to go wrong with those. But I really, whether it's bourbon or food or beer or whatever it is, like I want to try all of it. I want a flight every time. If there's at a if we're going out to eat and there's like a sampler platter, like, yes, I want that. I want the wings and the brisket and the whatever. Like give it all to me.
Hey, I like that strategy. I like it a lot. For those that want to find out more about Nose Your Bourbon, where can they go?
Yes, you can actually go to knowseyourbourbon.etsy.com. So it's ETSY, and it's Nose Your Bourbon, just like you said, NOSE yourbourbon.etsy.com. That's my main storefront out there. You've got the nosing kit, you've got the nosing kit bundle, just the PDF download of the tasting sheet, and then some Glencairn glasses also.
I highly recommend it, folks. Like I said, especially for the bourbon lover, whether they're just wanting to get into it or just got into it, especially with quarantine. With life in 2020, a lot of us have kind of picked up some new hobbies. So I definitely recommend it. And Chris, I love this thing. I can't wait to try it so I can kind of develop my skills a little bit better. And thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. And I'm excited to kind of see where this goes. There is another, obviously 18. There's more than 18 things on a bourbon tasting wheel. So keep an eye out for maybe a expansion pack of sorts. Maybe there's a version 2 kit that's coming out down the road, right? So that's the kind of stuff that I'm working on. I'm excited to kind of bring to the table.
I love to hear that, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan.
This is probably like the third time I've said this, but you definitely need to check it out. The Nose Your Bourbon kits are really cool. Highly recommend as a gift, especially for some of those folks like myself that have dived a little more into their bourbon, into the bourbon world, and are trying to just get a little better at picking up all those unique notes. Told you about the holiday giveaway, the things we love holiday giveaway. We talked about pies and pints last week when we talked to Joshua Hurst. No, nothing from this week's episode, but we will be giving away some Gish packs. That's right, Gish pack, GISH_pack. You can find them on Instagram. That's another cool gift that you can give some beer lovers. It's a nice little carrying kit, reusable. Definitely recommend that for the beer lovers out there. Check out Gish pack, GISH_PAK. So check them out. Also, check out our friends at One Sip Beer Review. You can find them on Instagram at One Sip Beer Review. They do cool giveaways and your daily beer reviews, and they just have a lot of fun with all the videos they do. That's at One Sip Beer Review on Instagram. And next week, it's December. That's right. And we talk a little bit of bourbon and food pairings with Tim Niddle and Afton Locken from Distilled Living. It's a fun episode. Until then, cheers, everyone.